We all know AI is changing software engineering, but how is it changing product management? And how do product managers work with software engineers and all these different tools in this new era? Today on the Product Driven podcast, check out my interview with Jorel Velarde, who is a product manager at Fullscale Ventures, about how we are trying to navigate this ourselves with our own product management and engineering teams. To survive and thrive, you must adopt a product-driven mindset. And we're back for another episode of Product Driven. This is your host, Matt Watson. Excited to be joined today by Jorel Velarde, who is one of our product managers here at Fullscale, helping us build one of our own internal products. And he's learning quick, fast, hard lessons about how to be a product manager in the day and age of AI and rapid prototyping and all this kind of stuff. And he's going to give us some lessons today about what we're learning at Fullscale about how product managers work with engineering teams, with AI and all the rapid prototyping and stuff that they can do. Driving each other all crazy, I think, trying to figure out how to navigate this new world. Jorel, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Matt, and I'm glad to be back.
You know, is product manager the right job title now, or how is this changing everything?
Oh gosh, like I was talking to a couple of my friends trying to describe what I do the other day, and I ended up with AI product designer manager engineer with like all the vibe coding stuff that I've been doing, and it's quite crazy and lots of blurred lines nowadays. The most important thing is you know how to provide value to the organization you're in and fit. I think that's like the core central piece of being a product manager. You know how to drive the outcomes, but at the same time, you're not afraid to get your hands dirty, especially nowadays in the age of AI. There's just a lot of things you can do now as someone who like leads product teams. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a different vibe, right? Like you know, so many lines and rules and responsibilities are kind of shattered. And you said the word that I think is really important is you can be very focused on outcomes. Like, what are we trying to accomplish from a business perspective, from a product perspective, where a lot of engineering teams aren't as focused on that. They're like, give me the requirements and I'll go build this thing. Just tell me what to do. And I think that makes it a lot harder for them to use AI to do the kind of work that you're doing because they're not thinking as much about outcomes in the bigger picture, right?
Oh, 100%. So the way I think about this as a product leader is actually very important. My roots in product management help me ground on like what the outcome is, but this changes on the type of organization you're in. If you're in a startup and you're 0 to 1, you're pre-idea, you're pre-revenue, you're pre-user, the most important thing for that organization is validation. So as a product manager in this day and age, your goal is to take what usually takes a week or two, a sprint, down to a day to get rapid feedback. And this is now possible with AI. Like what we've been doing nowadays, I'm calling this new framework or ways of doing or methodology prompt prototyping. So it's essentially vibe coding for product managers and product designers. But the goal here is not to build a full product outright. The goal here is to get validation from day one. And if you're working in startups, you're building startups nowadays, this is the most important part to do as a product thinker. So you need to understand what the organization needs right now and help validate and ensure that the team is working on the right idea. The fundamentals are still the same. In fact, they're amplified. But like the ways of execution and the expectations have now just like skyrocketed. Like a way that really stuck to me, a phrase that really stuck to me describing how things are like nowadays is the floor has been raised, but at the same time, the ceiling has been raised even further. Everyone can now jump in the floor has been lowered. Everyone can now jump in and like do the things that they usually take a lot of manpower, hours, and skills to do. But at the same time, the expectations for delivery is much higher. And I'm not talking about delivery just by output. It's still rooted in outcomes. So that's what I have to say about that.
So you mentioned now you can get 1 or 2 weeks worth of work done in a day, but you don't expect the engineering team to do that, do you? Is that just more from your prototyping and UX perspective, or do you think the engineering team should be able to move that much faster?
From experience, I know that there's this huge gap between these two. At the same time, some teams are claiming that they can now like bridge that gap straight to engineering. But I'm taking this with a more pragmatic approach. So my goal as a product thinker and working in startups is actually how do we get from 2 weeks of like the traditional pre-AI period, 2 weeks as a sprint, to get validation from the users. How do we get from 2 weeks down to like a single day of validation? Now, in prompt prototyping, the one that the framework that I'm sharing it now, it's a separate process for building the product. Like prompt prototyping should be like it's essentially vibe coding for product designers and product managers. The goal is not entirely to build an entire product, but the goal here is to get like rapid feedback. The interesting thing right now that is not hasn't been the case since ever before is the handoff between design and engineering can now actually involve a lot of code. Like I was building this side project for a nonprofit. It was like a weekend project for a hackathon. And what we actually did as a product manager in that hackathon event was I was working on the UX and the prototype. But once we validated, you know what, this is what we want to build, instead of just giving some link to Figma with some like screens and pixels, yeah, I actually gave like a repository to my engineer, and they worked on the backend integration, the AI integration, which took even faster now with AI. So the expectations for both teams has changed, but as a product leader, I have higher expectations for product people nowadays to push for what matters most in a startup. That's validation. And I'd say even in all sizes of organization, validation is like the most important thing in checking which idea to work on, like before you pass it on to the team. So there's a
So
very real
there's
thing that's happening there. Yeah.
so there's a whole lot of things here to discuss that I want to get into.
Yeah.
But I feel like the hardest part about building software has never been how fast you can create the code. Like how
Oh
fast you
yes.
can type the code has never been the problem. It has always been more on the product and business side, like the priorities, what are we building, why are we building this, and then getting the team to actually build the right thing, like to actually focus on the thing that matters the most. Like, how do you think AI is helping that part of it? Because it's easy to prototype lots of stuff. It's easy to engineer a lot of stuff. But I feel like the biggest challenge with most businesses is figuring out the right things to build and having the conviction, right? And taking the risk and like making those bets and go building the right things and not building the wrong things. A lot of times they just build lots of the wrong things. How is AI
A
helping us with
hundred
that part
percent.
of it?
Yeah. So AI has amplified the entire product process here. So instead of just waiting for like the designers and developers, I've worked with a lot of teams before AI was like mainstream, and usually I had to wait like a week or two before I got something I can show to my users. And that is with a healthy designer and a product team that's used to working with one another. So now instead of asking for like a prototype, like a low fidelity mock up, if you're going really by the book here, like some of like the teams even suggest that you show low fidelity mock ups to your users and get like some feedback on the UX flow. Now, instead of waiting a week or two with your team on aligning before we get some user feedback, the most product managers alone can now actually prototype for 0 to 1 concepts and build on top of existing products. So one of the like workshops I ran just the other day in a UX conference in the Philippines was how do we take an existing product and propose a new feature for it? Let's say you're a designer or you're a product manager for Apple Music, and you're proposing for a new feature in implementing LLM chat with like that particular product. If I wanted to actually mock something up, like in the past, I had to talk to a designer. Hey, this is what I want to do. Here's my PRD. Here are the user stories. Here's the acceptance criteria. Give me something back that I can show to my users so that I can gather some feedback on this. Now it's just me taking a screenshot of Apple Music, pasting that in Lovable. Hey, recreate this. We're creating some new feature out of this, and this is what I want to happen. And that is where we go into the tactical side of like creating prompt prototypes. And there's a lot of misconceptions and things that I'd love to unpack here. But the just to go back to like the core question here, like the fundamentals are amplified, and Yes, coding has not is not like the bottleneck in organization. It's actually figuring out the right thing to build and spending time focusing on it. So the validation process is now like shortened from 2 weeks to a day. And we can now even go ahead. So one of the teams that we're working with in Full Skill Ventures is we're now introducing the concept of future versioning. So we're not building anything yet. The team has enough work for the next 2 sprints. The product team is going to go ahead and work on future versions of the product even before like we pass that on to developers, like, hey, we're going to build this. So now we can get some feedback right away on what do we actually want first before we pass it on to the developers and build it. So it's a very interesting time to be a product thinker.
Well, you bring up a good problem though, and you and I have had this conversation. It's like
Yeah,
it's great that you're able to go prototype these things, but how do you prototype something that you can actually hand the engineers that we can actually use, or how do you create code that we can deploy and check in, right into our main, repository and stuff, and again, that the team can help review it,
yeah,
instead of creating something in like a separate silo that kind of gets
yeah,
thrown away, right? Like I think that's
yeah,
one of the hardest problems for people is it's easy to use AI to like prototype something over here, but then to actually implement it in your product, are you kind of starting over, or are they different tools, or how do you navigate through that? Have you
yeah.
figured any of that out yet, or are you just as confused as most people?
So so we've been talking about this for Full Skill Ventures, Matt, and I actually have like now like even more formed opinion about this. And here's where I've landed after spending like the past 2 months trying to crack this particular problem. So when you start, so this is why I'm writing up this new framework called prompt prototypes, because when you're working with mock data, when you're working with prototypes, it's a lot faster to iterate. You can iterate in seconds. You can build on top of like your existing UI and build it from scratch, or add new features that never existed. It's a lot faster. But when we like take this into like the production, which is an actual thing other product managers do and something we've done as well in Full Skill Ventures, the iteration speed slows down. And there's a key reason for this. Like the first key reason for this is you have to think about the back end and the security part, which is something that I still would love to work with a designer on, with a developer on. But the most interesting thing here is if there's something far enough in the roadmap, product managers with the right guidance can actually work on developing this. I just want to separate the two. The first framework is when you are in product validation phase and you want to validate an idea or a feature that doesn't exist yet. So that's a prompt prototype, rapid feedback within seconds. You get something that you can show to stakeholders. But when you're building in production, I'm calling this now vibe coding in production, and still don't have like a proper name for it yet. But there's a specific set of guardrails that you need to set up before you get into that. And I want to share one key lesson that I've learned, like trying to do this for one of our products, Matt. It's that it's counterintuitive in a sense, because you would normally expect that it's easier to vibe code a 0 to 1 product with secure best practices. But what I've found personally when I was like working on like an epic further down in the roadmap, it's that it's a lot more um it's a lot more engineering sound, and like the AI outputs better code in an existing repository. So, but there's some limitation. So, if developers have been working building on top of that code, guiding like the direction of it, like the AI actually picks up on the patterns and conventions that the developer uses. And if you're a product manager going into like production and trying to figure out how do you actually vibe code into this, I suggest you go like in the normal onboarding process for a developer. Talk to your engineer and like ask them, hey, I'm trying to create this page. Where do pages go? I'm trying to create this backend logic. Where do the backend logic go? And then once you get those key parts in, write that in a cursor instruction or an agent instruction. So this goes in multiple forms, usually in Markdown format. For cursor, it's dot cursor. For Claude, it's dot Claude. Gemini, dot Gemini. But essentially, I just write something like a Markdown format, like agent instructions. Now, you put the conventions there just to ensure that like the agent gets that. And with that, I use a totally separate tool and process. We're now working in Cursor. For prompt prototyping, I primarily suggest V0 and Lovable. But if you're vibe coding in production, it's a must that you set up this rules and guidelines so that you pass on code to your developers and your developers don't hate you for giving garbage code. Like I intentionally had conversations with my developers to talk about like, hey, I actually want to give you code that's easy to review. Can you help me walk me through that process? Like what how do I instruct my agent to code in a way that's easier for you to review later on? And what are the things that I should watch out for? And if you ask that question to your developers or like your existing code base with an agent, you'd be surprised with how good of an answer you get. And the side effect is you actually learn more about software engineering as you go. So that's a very interesting like process that I suggest like everyone should try out. Like, yeah,
Well, I think there's two kinds of product managers and product owners. You have people that come up from the
yeah,
support team, usually they understand the product, the business, the industry, the customer's issues, and they bring a lot of value from a product perspective into the product team. And then you have some product managers that have more of an engineering background. So they understand more of
yes,
the nuts and bolts of like how to build software and the complexity and all this kind of stuff. And I think in a good product team, you need both. Um,
yes,
I think it can be really difficult for product managers that are don't have an engineering background to understand like the level of complexity and how to do things and
yeah,
when, they're like, hey, we should build this thing. Is that going to be easy or is that going to be hard? Is that going to be impossible? How much time is that going to take?
yeah,
So I say all of that to preface the question of like, how is AI making all of that problem almost sort of worse? Because now are you looking at it and you're like, hey, this should be really easy. I vibe coded this thing in an hour. Like, let's go. Like, is that almost making the problem worse? Because you're like, well, I don't really understand how the engineering works, but I vibe coded this thing in like an hour. Like, why can't you get this crap done? Like, what is the deal? Like, is that
yeah.
exasperating this kind of problem?
Yeah, so I've heard a couple of conversations around this line a lot, and I had conversations with developer friends where they do some freelancing projects and they get some code from a CEO who's non-technical and it's just some vibe coded garbage, and they automatically send a resignation. Hey, I'm not doing this. It's too much of a mess for me to clean up, and like I'd just rather work on something else. And there's this huge handoff between like like expectation management between working with AI, what's possible and what's not. The key important part here that I want to suggest for or like what I recommend for non-technical like product managers getting into like vibe coding or prompt prototyping, it's to understand things conceptually. So you don't have to understand things with the level of intention to write it manually, but if you understand things how it works conceptually, think black boxes, app flows, and where does this code go, where does this code go, and if you think about like the repository in that way, you learn the actual jargons, you become a better AI builder. So like people call this vibe coders, but at the same time, the more you get into it, the more technical you become. So if you're coming from a non-technical background, my core suggestion is like really get into learning things technically, like learning technical things conceptually and owning that front. But if you're coming from a technical background, I'm seeing lot of like more positive like reactions actually. More veterans, people who haven't touched code in a while, who were technical before and ventured into management for the past 10 years. More of these people are actually enjoying coding and building stuff again because it's like they're working with a super junior like developer that just does what they want and they can check if it's good or not. And an example of this is I had like a talk like last weekend in a UX conference. An IT manager who hasn't touched code for like a decade or so like approached me like, you know what? I am having so much fun building stuff in Lovable because right now like my team doesn't understand this, but like when I'm building things and I present it to stakeholders, my team is actually shocked. Like, hey, how did you build this? Like, what's going on? It's like your technical understanding of like how things work make you a better AI builder, whether you're building things 0 to 1 or building things inside of an existing repository. So like if you already understand the concepts, you're gonna have like a much more enjoyable time. If you're coming from a business standpoint and you haven't touched any of this before, you have to like embrace that initial discomfort with not knowing how things work. But later on, like learn things as you go, like solve one problem at a time, and even get your hands dirty with some debugging, and you'll eventually understand how things work conceptually, and you'll be able to contribute more or make the most out of AI more with just that particular like an additional effort on your end of like learning things and how they work. Yeah.
Well, I think product managers are going to have to almost become like low code engineers, right? Like to some degree, the more that they know like the basics of some coding stuff, the better. And at a minimum, it feels like we need to develop some special training around software architecture and stuff so that product managers at least have some understanding of, I should click this thing, should do a background process, like security, databases, basics about database stuff. Like, it feels like we need some specialized training that has this AI as the leading part of it, right? So product managers have a little more idea of what they're building and how it impacts the rest of the code base and what they should maybe stay away from. Like I don't want to, I don't want to touch anything that has to do with like multi-tenancy is a big problem. Like getting the security right for multi-tenancy, is going to tend to cause a lot of problems with AI or whatever, right? Identifying what those kinds of things are so that product managers know what to watch out for and what to do, what not to do in regards to how to work with the engineering team.
100%. So like the better product managers understand these concepts, the better they integrate with their engineering teams. And I just want to point out like one key difference between like the era of low code and AI right now. Like and like the core difference between the two is that low code development, you still have to learn the tool, and eventually what happens is you hire like a low code developer and you're back at square one. Nowadays with AI, like it's at a level of abstraction that product managers and non-technical people can learn things conceptually, but not but still integrate well with their development team. Not in a way that you're eventually gonna need to hire like um like a Claude specialist like building stuff. Like everyone else will just like learn how Claude Code works or like Cursor works, and it's going to be part of everyone's workflow. The interesting thing here that like the cutting edge products have been doing in the past like 3 months or so is they are starting to communicate around the baseline around GitHub. So like this is like the most enjoyable thing for me right now is you can start a project or like pick up a project on Lovable, and your team can actually work on that GitHub repository on Cursor. And with that, like all of the changes your team has made and like PRs and like new branches, it gets reflected in your Lovable workspace. And with that, there's this now integration between non-technical people and technical people in different tools, but at the same time working on the same product on the same repository. And it's just like an amazing innovation for me that people can actually now contribute in the code like in focus on like the product, which is like the most important thing when you're building 0 to 1, and ensuring that we build the right thing. Because going back to what you said earlier, Matt, like the most important thing when you're building a startup is not actually like the code. It's ensuring that you're building the right thing, and like getting the outcome that we want out of a startup, like solving that problem. And with vibe coding, with like coding assistants right now, there's a lot of intersections and touch points for everyone in the team to play around with it, whether you're technical or non-technical or you're full on developer. The part here that I actually want to see more, Matt, is like the developers creating UI and UX with like Cursor. So I've seen a couple of people doing this already with one of our products, but it takes a little bit more of a push. Like, hey, now you can actually be part of the product team. Like you can create something and get some feedback right away, and you don't have to wait for like the product managers who are usually the bottleneck in getting feedback to create something of value and get some feedback off of it. So it's a very exciting time to be building startups.
Well, as we wrap this up, I think my final question for you is how much of this is hype and hypothetical and sounds too good to be true versus is it just actually a little bit of an incremental improvement for people? But everybody gets, all hyped up about it.
Yeah.
Like, is it an incremental improvement or is it really that much of a game changer?
Yeah. So for me as a product manager, it's like an exponential game changer. Like from needing 2 weeks and a team of three to get like a functional prototype. After playing with like coding assistants for a while, I can now actually build things within a single day. But there's a lot of misconceptions on how this works. I There's this video I watched about like this particular topic from like a trusted engineering source. The channel is from Pragmatic Engineer. He talked about this particular topic, and I love how he approached this conversation. Like he talked to the CEOs who has been hyping like the conversation a lot, and he also talked to like the engineers working with AI in these companies. So the to answer your question from my experience, it's the the most interesting thing right now is the anti-hype is actually the hype nowadays. The anti-hype around AI is now like what they say the hype. There's a correction between the marketing in the last 3 years about what AI can do, and people are now suddenly breaking past. Um, People are now suddenly like discarding like the things you can do with AI. But if you're a realist, if you actually play with AI and use it every day to build like products, you'll see a huge productivity gain that I can just not compare like my workflow like a couple of years ago. And I've worked with amazing startup teams, amazing like large corporate teams. None of them can compare to how much output and productivity we can get out of AI nowadays. But the most important thing is still the most important thing. You can create a lot of outputs, but you still need to control outcomes. Like everyone can create like entire repositories of code nowadays, but you still need to ask yourself, are you like solving the problem in front of you? Are you achieving the outcome that you set up? So this is why I even argue that the fundamentals are amplified. Like it's so weird that now that we can execute, everyone has now can now execute at a certain baseline. It has been raised, and everyone can now just suddenly like leveled up as developers, as builders. But the output is still the same. The outcome is still as difficult as it is to obtain in a age before AI versus it is right now. We're just much faster at it, but it still is like as ever elusive as like it was like a couple years ago. Are you still solving the right problem? Are you ensuring that the team is working on the most important thing to work on right now? And I'd argue it's a lot easier to be distracted nowadays because you can just build a lot of things with like minimal cost. With that, you really have to have some strong control over like, you know what, this is strong control and alignment with the team. This is what we're trying to do. This is the problem that we're solving. This is the outcome that we need to attain. And my role as a product leader in like a startup in Full Scale Ventures is to ensure that we are actually working on the most important thing right now. The best part about the job like that I particularly enjoy working with AI is I can now work on weeks ahead on time instead of like catching up for development week on week. Like before I had to like wait on like, hey, like the team is running out of things to work on. I have to write tickets right away and ensure like that the team has enough work for the next sprint. Now we're actually working 2-3 sprints ahead of time. And as technology
Which is
advances,
great.
as we get practice off of this, it's going to be even much more like amazing because we're gathering feedback before we even building it. So it's like a very fun time building startups now.
Well, Jarrell, it's been awesome to have you on the show today and sharing some insights of what you're seeing as a product manager in this new era of AI. So, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate having you on the show.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you, sir. Before we wrap up today's episode, we have a special resource for you if you're looking to elevate your development team to have more of a product-driven mindset. I have a fantastic free ebook about turning your code-first team into a product-first team. Please go to fullscaleteam.com/product-first-teams to download this free ebook. There's also a link in the show notes. Thanks for listening to Product Driven, and we'll see you in the next episode.